Jai Hind children, welcome in your history class. Children, you are having your UT test, unit test 2, and for that already I have shared the syllabus in the group. Life in the rural areas, this chapter will be coming in the test, children. But do remember that not only the question answers, not only the exercises which are given in the chapter, children, that will only come. No, you have to read the chapter thoroughly, because the questions will be coming in between the chapter also, and MCQ type of questions will be coming. So read the chapter thoroughly, children, and I'm very much sure that you're going to do very well in the test. Okay, so life in the rural areas, we are going to revise this chapter today. As we have already discussed previously also in this chapter, that before the arrival of the Britishers, villages were self-sufficient units. Means whatever things were needed by the villagers, the village were able to produce itself. Clear, children? So villages were self-sufficient units. Now you can see the chapter on the screen also, life in the rural areas. Today we are going to revise this chapter. Okay. So before the arrival of the Britishers, villages were self-sufficient unit. Means most of the things that villages needed were produced in the village itself. The farmer, they were having their own land, but they could not be evicted from the land. उनको कोई जमीन से हटा नहीं सकता था. They paid a very small part of the produce to the king, and at the time of natural calamities, children, means if the crops failed, the king reduced the land revenue, or sometimes he totally wrote it off. Natural calamities के समय पे या तो king reduce कर देता था revenue, या फिर पूरी तरह से माफ कर देता था. So when the Britishers came to India, or you can say that before the arrival of the Britishers, villages were self-sufficient units. Do remember that villages were self-sufficient units, and most of the things that villagers needed were produced in the village itself. But after the coming of the Britishers, the situation was totally changed. Now revenue began to be collected by the East India Company. Okay, so the agents of the company were collecting revenue from the villagers, children, and it was fixed, and it was necessary, it was compulsory that the villagers, they have to pay the revenue in cash only, and no concession was given at the time of crop failure. No concession was given at the time of natural calamities, children. If the crops fail, then also they have to pay the revenue. So there was a vast difference between before the arrival of the Britishers, villages were self-sufficient units, and at the time of natural calamities, the king reduced the land revenue, or sometimes it totally wrote it off. But after the arrival of the Britishers, the situation totally changed. Now revenue began to be collected by the agents of the company. It was fixed, and they had to pay in cash only, and no concession was given during the time of natural calamities. Then colonial agrarian policy. Agrarian means agricultural policy. And after the Battle of Buxar, the English East India Company, they got the right to collect revenue of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. So do you remember that, children? After which battle, you have to mention the name of the battle, that the English East India Company got the right to collect revenue of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. So you have to mention the name of the battle, and the Battle of Buxar. So after the Battle of Buxar, the EEIC, that is the English East India Company, they got the right to collect revenue of children, Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Now the question is, why the company needed money? Why was money needed by the East India Company, children? Number one, to purchase goods in India and to export them. Number two, to run the administration. Number three, to maintain an army. Number four, to fund the numerous wars that the Britishers were fighting, not only in India but abroad also. So the company needed money to purchase goods in India and export them. Then say number two, to run the administration. Number three, to maintain an army. and number 4, to fund the numerous wars that they fought both in India and abroad. So the main motive, the main aim of the East India Company was to make more and more money. Means a major objective of the East India Company was to extract more and more money from India. Clear, children? So the main aim of the company was to make as much money as possible. And since land revenue was the main source of income, and so they were focusing on that only. So the land revenue was the main source of income during the British time. So the collection of the land revenue, timely collection of the land revenue was very important for the Britishers, very important for the company. So do remember that, children, which was the main source of income at the time of for the Britishers, children. So land revenue was the main source of income during the Britishers, and Britishers wanted that land revenue should be collected timely. Then when Warren Hastings was a Governor General, do you remember the name? Who was a Governor General, when the company gave the right to collect revenue from an area to the highest bidder, the Warren Hastings was a Governor General. At that time, the East India Company gave the right to collect revenue from an area to the highest bidder. जो ज़्यादा बोली लगाता था कि हम इतना रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके ज़मीन से दे देंगे, ज़मीन उसको दे दी जाती थी. By whom? By Warren Hastings. At this time, this scheme was followed by Warren Hastings, that the governor, he was a Governor General, and the company gave the right to collect revenue from an area to the highest bidder. But the system failed because bids sometimes were made for an amount which was more than what the land could actually produce. जितना जमीन से प्रोडक्शन नहीं होता था, उससे ज़्यादा की बिड लग जाती थी, मतलब उससे ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके देंगे, ये कह देते थे लोग. तो ये सिस्टम जो है वो फेल हो गया. So the company never got the full amount, and the bidding amount also varied from one year to another, and this resulted in instability of income for the company. So company was not getting a regular income by this method, children, by the system. So this system failed. Now the company was thinking of another type of revenue collection system to smoothen their revenue collection mechanism, children. So to smoothen the revenue collection mechanism, the company brought, the East India Company, they brought about some changes. They introduced 3 new revenue collection system, and you have to remember that the 3 new revenue collection system. Number 1 was the permanent settlement, number 2 was Mahalwadi settlement or system, and the number 3rd was Raitwadi system, children. So to smoothen the revenue collection mechanism, because they wanted a regular and stable income, children, from the land, so the company brought some changes and they introduced 3 new revenue collection system. Number 1 was permanent settlement, number 2 was Mahalwadi system, and number 3rd was Raitwadi system. Now we are going to study the features of all these 3 new revenue collection systems which were introduced by the Britishers, children. So first of all, permanent settlement, children. So permanent settlement, for you have to remember, when was this scheme introduced? So permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. By whom? By Lord Cornwallis. Do you remember that? Permanent settlement was introduced in which year? In 1793. And by whom? By Lord Cornwallis. So to ensure a regular income, the East India Company, they decided to fix the land revenue of Bengal and Bihar. And you have to also remember the place where the system was introduced. So the permanent settlement was introduced in Bengal and Bihar. And in which year? In 1793. By whom, children? By Lord Cornwallis. Clear? So to ensure a regular income, the company decided to fix the land revenue of Bengal and Bihar on a permanent basis, and this system was introduced in 1793, and it was introduced by Lord Cornwallis and came to be known as a permanent settlement. So question can come like this also: in which year the scheme was, this settlement was introduced? You have to mention the places. So this system was introduced in 1793 in Bengal and Bihar, and by whom? By Lord Cornwallis. Or name the scheme which was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, then you have to write permanent settlement. Clear? So let us recall the features of permanent settlement. The revenue to be collected from an area was fixed permanently. In permanent settlement, children, the revenue was fixed. Means you have to pay this amount of revenue and there was no scope of revision later. Then second, the local zamindar was asked to collect the revenue from the peasants. And every year he had to pay the fixed amount of revenue which was collected by the peasants to the company. And if he was able to collect more revenue from the land, he would keep the surplus amount. जो extra revenue वो collect अगर कर लेता था जमींदार, तो वो extra amount जो वो खुद रख लेता था. लेकिन अगर वो जितना fixed revenue उससे कम collect करता था, तब उसको अपनी जमींदारी राइट से हाथ धोना पड़ता था. देन उसको अपना जो जमीन थी वो किसी और को दे दी जाती थी और वो जमींदार, लोकल जमींदार फिर रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके ब्रिटिशर्स को देता था. सो द 3 रेवेन्यू पॉलिसी यू कैन सी ऑन द स्क्रीन: परमानेंट सेटलमेंट, रैयतवाड़ी सिस्टम और सेटलमेंट, एंड द थर्ड वाज महलवाड़ी सिस्टम. सो permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. It was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, and in which areas? Bengal and Bihar. So the local zamindar was given the right to collect revenue, and if he would not able to collect that stipulated amount, he would lose his zamindari rights and the land then would be given to another zamindar. Children, this system of fixing the revenue in advance, it was very fruitful to the company. It was very advantageous to the company because in this way they were getting a fixed and regular income, and they were not taking the trouble of collecting it from each peasants. Also, it was the responsibility of the local zamindar, children, and these zamindars who were collecting revenue for the Britishers, for the company, children, they were very loyal to the Britishers. Clear? But this system was very advantageous to the Britishers, but this system was very exploitive for the peasants, for the farmers, because they had to pay a very high revenue and could be evicted from the land if they failed to do so. And the zamindars were also not interested in investing money to improve the productivity of the land. And when the revenue and when the production declined, the revenue demands of the zamindars went up. And to pay the revenue, sometimes peasants, they have to borrow money from money lenders or from someone else, and they were caught in the debt trap. Clear, children? So this was the first system which was introduced by the Britishers, and it was very advantageous, or you can say that it was very fruitful for the East India Company because they were getting a fixed and regular income, and they were not taking any trouble of collecting it from any peasant, from each peasants. And the zamindars who were taking pain to collect the revenue from the peasants, they were loyal to the Britishers. But this type of system was very harmful for the peasants, and peasants suffered a lot under this system. Clear? Now the second system which was introduced by the Britishers was Mahalwadi system, children. This system was introduced, Mahalwadi system was introduced in present day Western Uttar Pradesh, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. So do remember that. Permanent settlement was introduced in Bengal and Bihar. Mahalwadi settlement was introduced in Uttar Pradesh, in Western Uttar Pradesh, then Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. Clear? So Mahalwadi system was introduced in Western Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. In these areas, land was commonly owned by a group of villages called mahals. Means कुछ गांव को मिलाकर के एक ग्रुप बना दिया जाता था और उस ग्रुप को महाल्स कहते थे. And the task of collecting the revenue and paying to the company was given to the headman of each mahal. जो ग्रुप ऑफ विलेजेस को मिलाकर के महाल्स बनता था और इस महाल का एक हेडमैन होता था, and the headman was having the responsibility to collect the revenue from the mahals and then gave it to the Britishers, to the company, children. And under the system, the revenue demand was not fixed permanently but could be revised periodically. So do remember that Mahalwadi system was introduced in UP, that is Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. In these areas, land was commonly owned by a group of villages, and the group of villages were called mahals, and the task of collecting the revenue and paying to the East India Company was given to the headman of each mahal. Now the third system, that was Rayatwadi system, RYOT, Rayat means Kisan, farmers. The Rayatwadi system was devised by Thomas Munro. Do you remember that? Permanent settlement was introduced by whom? Lord Cornwallis. And Rayatwadi system was created by Thomas Munro. You have to remember the name, children. So the Rayatwadi system was devised by Thomas Munro and it was introduced in parts of Madras and Bombay presidencies. Permanent settlement was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis in Bengal and Bihar. Then Mahalwadi system was introduced in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. Rayatwadi system was introduced in Madras and Bombay presidencies. You have to remember the places, children. Do you remember that? Okay. So Rayatwadi system was devised by whom? By Thomas Munro. And it was introduced in parts of Madras and Bombay presidencies. Under this, the company made a revenue settlement directly with the right. Right means peasants, किसान. कंपनी यहाँ पे डायरेक्टली जो है वो किसान से ही रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करती थी. द फार्मर वॉज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज द ओनर ऑफ द लैंड एज लॉन्ग एज ही पेड द लैंड रेवेन्यू. जब तक फार्मर्स जो है कंपनी को देता रहेगा रेवेन्यू तब तक वो जमीन उसकी रहेगी. एंड इफ यू फेल टू डू सो देन the land will be taken by the company. And the land was fixed, the revenue was fixed according to the fertility of the soil. Means जो जमीन जितनी ज़्यादा फर्टाइल होगी उसका रेवेन्यू, लैंड रेवेन्यू ज़्यादा होगा. जो कम फर्टाइल होगी उसका लैंड रेवेन्यू कम होगा. सो अगेन Rayatwadi system, it was devised by Thomas Munro. Then it was introduced in parts of Madras and Bombay presidencies. And under this company, they made a revenue settlement directly with whom? With the peasant, with the right. And the farmer was recognized as the owner of the land as long as he paid the land revenue. जब तक वो land revenue देते रहेंगे, he will be recognized as the owner of the land. And land revenue was fixed according to the fertility of the soil, children. Clear? So these were the three land revenue systems or settlements which were introduced by the Britishers. First was permanent. It was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis in Bengal and Bihar. Then second, children, it was Mahalwadi system, and this system was introduced in Uttar Pradesh, then Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. And Rayatwadi system was introduced in Madras and Bombay presidencies, and it was devised by Thomas Munro. Then comes, what was the impact, what is the effect of these land revenue systems which were introduced by the East India Company? Okay, children. So let us revise. What was the effect of the land revenue settlements which were introduced by the East India Company? Actually, these land revenue systems or settlements, they were very exploitive for the peasants. These type of settlements only increase the suffering of the peasants' children. So land now became a sellable commodity, which could be bought, sold or mortgaged. And this type of land revenue systems had an adverse impact on the rural life as well as on the economy, children. Then impoverishment of the peasantry. Peasants, किसानों की कैसी हालत हो गई थी, कैसी उनकी दुर्दशा बढ़ गई थी because of these land revenue systems. During British rule, most peasants, they survived on very small incomes, and the company's revenue demands, failure of crops and costly social customs such as marriage and festivals often forced the peasants to either sell part of the land or borrow money from the village money lenders, children. Since the peasants, they considered the land as a mother, they always refused to sell it. So borrowing money from the money lender was the only option left in front of them. And the money lender mortgaged the land of the peasants, and they charged a very high rate of interest. And once in debt, most peasants were unable to repay the money. So the mortgaged land was taken away by the money lenders. So because of these land revenue settlements, children, that permanent and Rayatwadi and Mahalwadi system, it increases the suffering of the peasants. And the peasants were surviving on very small incomes. The company was demanding high and high revenue, and they were not giving any concession to the peasants at the time of natural calamities also. And because of the costly social customs, sometimes peasants, they have to mortgage their land, and mortgage, and they have to they have to mortgage their land, and they have to take money from the money lenders, and these money lenders, they charge a very high rate of interest. And once they were caught in the debt trap, they never managed to come out from it. So the new revenue collection system, children, they created a class of zamindars who were very completely indifferent to the welfare of the farmers. So the zamindars, a new class was created, and that was a class of zamindars, and they were never ever thinking about the welfare of the farmers, children. The main aim was to extract the more and more revenue from the peasants, and they did nothing to improve agriculture, and they never provided irrigation facilities to the farmers also, children. And most of the peasants, they depended entirely on the monsoon, and sometimes because of the failure of the rains in any year brought about famines, and for the farmers it was very next to impossible to pay revenue to the Britishers, to the company, children, and their source of income was also stopped. Clear? So all these three land revenue systems, they increases the suffering of the farmers, children. Now, cultivation of cash crops. In the 19th century, there was increase in the cultivation of commercial of cash crops. Cash crops means those crops which are produced in order to sell in the market. So some of the cash crops were indigo, jute, oilseed, sugarcane, tea, coffee, and cotton. And these type of crops were used in the British manufacturing industries. So the company, they encouraged the farmers to produce these type of crops, these type of commercial crops. And because the officials of the company forced the peasants to sow cash crops in their fields, and this practice resulted in the decline of the production of food grains and an acute shortage of food supply, children. You can see the example, you can take the example of indigo. In Hindi we used to call it neel. Indigo is a blue colored dye which is obtained from which plant? Indigo plant. And what is the use of indigo? It is used to dye cloth. So there was a great demand for indigo in Europe, and the Industrial Revolution had revolutionized the textile industry of England. Okay. So the demand of indigo was growing day by day, and Britain needed indigo to dye clothes. And since the climate of England was not suitable for growing indigo, it imported indigo from other places just like West Indies and North America. But the collapse of the indigo plantations in these regions means in West Indies and North America during the late 18th century, forced Britain to look for supplies from other areas. So there was a great demand of indigo in Europe, children, and the climate of England, Britain, was not suitable for growing indigo, so they were importing indigo from West Indies and North America. But in these regions there was a collapse of the indigo plantations, so to meet the growing demand for indigo, Britain turned to India, because India was a colony of the British Empire. And indigo had been grown in India since medieval times, but only a small portion of the land which was used to cultivate it. The company now forced the farmers in Bengal to grow only indigo. The company, because by selling indigo they were earning huge profit, so they were forcing the farmers of Bengal to grow only indigo. By the beginning of the 19th century, Indian indigo was a major export to England, and since by indigo cultivation company was earning huge profit, so many of the officials of the company, they began to privately invest in indigo plantations. Do remember that, children. Cultivating indigo was a labor intensive job. Labor intensive job का मतलब होता है जिसमें ज़्यादा लेबर की ज़रूरत पड़ती है. The planter signed a contract with the cultivator that he would only sow only indigo. Over time, the price paid to the cultivator became less and less, and the indigo cultivators, they were suffering a lot under this type of exploitative system. In 1860, do you remember that? Deen Bandhu Mitra, he wrote a play called Neel Darpan. This question can come like this also. Who wrote a play called the Neel Darpan? You will write Deen Bandhu Mitra. Or name a play which was written by Deen Bandhu Mitra. Neel. The answer will be Neel Darpan. In his play Deen Bandhu Mitra in Neel Darpan, he highlighted the atrocities committed by the indigo planters on the indigo cultivators. The indigo cultivator was also not free to sow the crops. Even if he were, he could not, because he found that the indigo crop had exhausted the fertility of the soil. I am going to tell you one thing, children. हमारे यहाँ इंडिगो कल्टीवेशन होता था ब्रिटिशर्स के आने के पहले, लेकिन बहुत कम एरिया में, बहुत कम जगह पे, क्योंकि कहा जाता है कि जिस जगह पे, जिस ज़मीन पे आप इंडिगो ग्रो करेंगे, उस जगह की ज़मीन जो है धीरे धीरे अपनी फर्टिलिटी खोने लग जाती है. तो जब इंडिगो क्रॉप ज़बरदस्ती अब ब्रिटिशर्स यहाँ पे ग्रो करने लगे, which resulted in the which exhausted the fertility of the soil, as there was no option left, so the peasants had decided to revolt against the company. So indigo rebellion took place. The indigo rebellion of 1859 and 60 in Bengal, it was a powerful peasant protest. The peasants, the farmers, they decided to revolt against the company, against the Britishers. And the indigo rebellion of 1859-60, remember the date, in Bengal was a powerful peasant protest. Okay. It was a program of non-cooperation with the planters. We are not going to cooperate the planters. And thousands of peasants, they refused to sow indigo. बहुत सारे लोगों ने refuse कर दिया कि हम इंडिगो अपने खेतों में grow नहीं करेंगे. And उन लोगों ने, कुछ cultivators ने तो इंडिगो factories के ऊपर ही attack कर दिया. Gomastas, who were the agents of the company, उन लोगों को भी जगह जगह पे मारा गया. And the peasants socially boycotted Indian servants who were working in European owned plantations. उनका बहिष्कार कर दिया. Even women also took part in this revolt, children. And at some places, the local Zamindars also joined the peasants. As a rebellion, as this revolt was widespreading. So the British government, they had to take some action. So the widespread nature of the rebellion forced the government to act immediately. And the British government, they set up the Indigo Commission to look into the system of indigo production and suggest changes. Now, Bengal, which was the hub of the indigo cultivation before, now the planters shifted their base to Bihar, but exploitation of the indigo cultivators continued, children, though it was shifted from Bengal to Bihar. So we have studied in this chapter that English East India Company, they had introduced 3 systems of revenue collection, and that was permanent, Mahalwadi and Raitwadi system, to get a fixed and regular source of income. And the land revenue settlements, they increases the suffering of the peasants, and land became a sellable commodity. And many peasants, they became landless. Now the company encouraged the cultivation of cash crops, and indigo was one such crop. The indigo cultivators, they suffered immensely, and the indigo cultivators in Bengal revolted in 1859-60 against the indigo planters. So this is all in this chapter. So go through the chapter thoroughly, children. Okay. Now you can see when the British came to India, villages were self-sufficient units. Then what was the main source of income for the British? Land revenue, children. Then the settlement which was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, that was permanent settlement. Then land under British rule became a sellable commodity. Then indigo was the main crop which was forced by the Britishers to grow on the fields of our country. Then true false, you can see the English East India Company wanted a regular source of income. That is true, children. Then the Raitwadi system was introduced in Bengal. No, it was introduced in Bombay and Madras presidencies. Then the company forced the peasants in Bengal to grow cash crops. Yes. Indigo cultivation was a capital intensive job. No, children. Indigo cultivation was a labor intensive job. Clear, children? So read the chapter thoroughly, and all the best for your test, children. And I know that you are going to do very well in your social science. Isn't it, children? Yes. So stay home, stay safe, and work hard, children. Thank you and have a nice day.